Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
absolutely.
We
We
can
can
hear
hear
you
you
now.
now.
Hey.
Good afternoon.
I like that
Good.
raspy voice. I like
No,
that.
trust me, it's allergies, but
Oh, I like it.
whatever.
I still like it.
But hey, it's Brooklyn Ty. How's everybody doing?
Brooklyn in the house.
I'm
Book,
hungry.
book, 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 BK.
Book. How's everybody doing? What's going on?
Your
Great.
favorite.
Chilling.
Welcome.
Yes, glad to speak to you guys finally.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves. You're live on the podcast. Well,
Oh,
not
goodness
live, but
gracious.
I don't know. You know how we do it.
Well, sorry, I had to get something to drink right quick.
Pause.
Well, I'm Brooklyn Ty. I'm from Brooklyn originally, and I'm actually living in Virginia right now. Got a work transfer, but I'm a blogger, podcast. I support Black-owned businesses. I am also hip hop junkie, so really heavy into like DJ perspective on hip hop, and yeah, mother, and that's really it. I don't know.
Virginia,
All I
you're in the
got.
government? You work for the
No.
government?
Oh no
Oh,
no no no
oh,
no.
okay.
I'm in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
No, definitely no.
That's what
Nah,
government
that's
people say.
that's a no. No. I'm in the 757, like the seven cities.
Virginia Beach is black as fuck, ain't it? Hey, it's a lot of black people there, right?
It's getting there, yeah. But it be to me like most of the military, so they be passing through. Like this,
Oh,
it's not black. I mean, they do have like the hood and like parts of Norfolk. Well, every city got a hood, but I like Norfolk. Norfolk is my comfort zone because it reminds me closest to New York. But I'm in the beach with the ocean with the water. So
Good fuck.
Man, that's pretty cool. That's
so
pretty cool.
we were having a very interesting conversation on your circle, and can you change your circle and bring it with you, or do you expand your circle? And it was just very intriguing,
Yeah,
actually.
it's gonna be
We were
on
just taking,
Patreon because that is some
yeah,
great.
bites of our personal lives. And then my quick question to you before we get started is, um, we're going to ask you a little bit about, you don't have to name names, of course, like the circle you started out with. I know women's circles are unique. Like these people I've known since I was, well, most of them since I was like 15, 16. Sham, at least since I was 30, I think,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere in
Okay.
there, 34,
Yeah, but
32, 33. Anyway, um, and I was wondering how far back your circle goes.
well, funny you should say that because I'm cutting them off as we speak. However, so like I was a tomboy. So I was the only child as far as my mother's kids. And like growing up in a house with kids, it was just me till I was 10. So a lot of my friends didn't start developing until maybe like 10, 11, because I have so many cousins. So my cousins were my friends. But
Okay.
I did like my oldest friend I've known since 9 years old. Like me and him, like that's my ace bone goon. Like we been through mad stuff together, and that's my like my brother. But I do have friends that I've had over 20 years that since COVID I started realizing like we are not really friends. No one, you don't call to check on me. You don't see how I'm doing. It's like how important is this friendship? Even though life gets in, like every life got in the way. Life goes fast. Everybody got their own little situations going on, but I've had friends that I've gone toe to toe with people for them on their behalf. I've traveled many states just to get to them and stuff like that. And like, I started really seeing in like 2020, like, you got people dying, like dying. Like you talking to them today, next day they sick, and the day after that they dead. So my circle's gotten real small. I still have like most of my cousins, but yeah.
I got a question. So you said that you're changing your circle because now that, or post COVID, it gave you an idea or
Moment
an
of clarity.
insight into how things really, yeah, moment of clarity on how things really were. Would you say previously, or looking back, can you say that some of your friendships were proximity based without you knowing, meaning that you were only friends with them, chances are because you were so close to them, and then once
Like
the distance put in between, that changed, or would
it,
it be something else?
it was more so like the reality. Like I'm a friend to the end no matter what. So I don't do things for you just because I expect you to do things for me. So because for the most part, I'm the friend with the most going on. I've been a mother since 15. I've been moving back and forth between Virginia and New York my whole life. I've like been married. I've been divorced. So like I'm the friend with like the most help, the most needed for the most part. If you want to put it on terms of that, because a lot of my friends are just starting to get married, are just starting to have kids. So
Mm.
it just made me realize like you know, in a time of need, like we all went through some like heavy duty, deep dive reality when you have people dying as much as people were dying. And it just made me, that was more, and then plus I turned 40 and, you just get to that point in life where you start having these reality checks and it's like, damn, how deep is our friendship? So it wasn't like I was just being a friend, or I'm the type of friend that I'm a friend until you're gonna do something for me or if I can benefit. No. But it just got to where I started realize I had to pick and choose like, my sanity, my mental space. I have teenagers that were also going through stuff, starting college and, a younger child in school that have to go through this whole on the computer and germs. And plus I was in New York and we taking the train, we outside the entire time. So yeah.
Interesting.
So what would you say?
Go ahead.
So from what I heard, it was that you got to an age where you began to see things from a more clear point of view, and you realize that time is finite, and so you're putting your time into people that you know can both give back and appreciate what you have to offer.
Exactly. It's just a lot
Right.
going on, and then when you have kids you have a lot going on with what they're going on. So your circle has to actually be smaller right now because the mental space, everybody is going through so much, and like you can only do and be so much to so many people at one
People,
time.
I agree with
So
that. Would you say that it's an issue of size or quality?
you mean that's like the size of friends, or is it the
The circle, yeah.
quality?
So, like, if you had, would
Oh,
you be able to have a larger circle if all of them are quality, or is it
I
the issue
have
that they're so hard to find?
no. Well, I mean, everybody serves a purpose, but like right now, I have two best friends, and then I have my kids. Like, thank God, my kids are at an age. I have my oldest is 28, and I had her at 15, so she's been like by my side from day one, growing up,
Mm.
going through everything. So I really have like one really, I think the least amount of friends to me on a personal level, like you can have a lot of friends, but as far as deep, deep friends, the smaller because that makes the quality better. You don't have a lot of people in your business. It helps you like, I have a situation. It's like, well, what is Shieta gonna say? Let me talk to Shieta about it. And then the other hand would be like, well, let me go to, my cousin who also I trust her judgment. I don't need a lot of people in my situation. So the least amount of friends I think makes the quality better, but it's okay to have a lot of well, I don't know. It really depends cuz see for me like I'm a tomboy by trade. Like, like I just always been comfortable being around guys and then just growing up I was always the only girl in the neighborhood and then amongst my cousins too. So I don't know. I just think best friend terms, you don't need a lot of best friends,
That's
but you can
true.
have a group of friends that you have. A lot of us have grown up with friends from like elementary school. You don't see them and hang out with them every day, but when the time comes, it's like y'all can gather, y'all can come up together for birthdays and holiday celebrations and stuff like that. But as far as on a deeper level, I think one or two best friends, somebody that you can really rely on through thick and thin. That's all it really. That's all you need.
I feel like I was asking all the questions. I give other guys a chance.
Well, no, I like the questions. I feel like you've done a good thing to kind of branch off the previous conversation that'll be on Patreon. But where I wanted to actually take this is a conversation I was having with Brooklyn Ty on Instagram, because a lot of times we talk to people through various social media outlets. And so it's definitely going back to an issue that a lot of people had with the McDonald's situation. So I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but there is a young lady out here on the streets. Well, not on the street. She's out here living her life like most people. She has, about 3 kids by some men, and then one other guy.
It was a skit.
Huh?
It was a skit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get it's a skit, but it's reality to a certain extent because of how much people were buying into it from both sides.
Talking about it. Yeah.
So all right, let's bring it beyond the skit. So obviously, dating a single mother is something that only those who are very brave should do, in my book. I think it's a lot easier to start something with someone who maybe has one, possibly 2 kids, depending on the life setup. But if you're dating someone who's got 3 kids already, I mean, it kind of is what it is. So if you get to a situation where things end, like for myself and Armstead, because I used us as examples, like we were very much in the lives of some young ladies. And when the relationship ended, like our access to the children also ended because some women are very petty. And so when that happens, like to the kid, like you just disappeared, just off the face of the earth. When in reality, it may just be like, hey, your mother doesn't want us to hang out anymore because she feels like it would be setting you up for something. Or maybe just because she just enjoys trying to get back at you for being a father figure in the kid's life. So, in the event that you do decide to hang out with a single mother and you end up having a child with her, are you wrong for only taking care of your child?
I got married.
No.
That was a skit?
Well, yeah, it was a
Yeah,
skit.
allegedly. Everybody thought it was real for like 2 weeks, though.
I mean, very true.
Like even
But it's
radio
it's really
stations.
it's really true to life though, because
Yeah, I've
that's
seen similar.
stuff I've seen worse actually. So, but yeah, for me, what I was saying in my point of view, I really to me it depends on how you were raised, right? Like on what view you have on it. So like if you've been raised with both of your parents and you've never known or had a sibling go off with their father and like you're there waiting for yours, like your viewpoint may be different. But me personally, I have 4 kids. They have the same father, right? So even with my kids, even discussing it with them, and they're 28, 22, 23, and not my 15-year-old, but um, they had their viewpoints. And to me, that like for them, it was on more so like, oh my God, that's so wrong. Just on more so the sad aspect. For me, I think it's wrong because until y'all explained that this happened to y'all, and I got to see your point of view. But to me, looking at it, like if you're with someone and you already step into it, like they have a child. Now they have a child, you're there for say a year, and now both of you procreate, and now you have a child together. And now another year goes by, you're not together, but now you're not even being a part of the child that you've already was in their life for a year. And now you're only interacting with your child from the other child's perspective. That's hurtful. Like that's like, for them, like, what did I do to you? Like, I didn't do anything, like, I just feel like that is.
Okay, so I have a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my 16-year-old's father wants nothing to do with him. My 16-year-old has autism and he has cerebral palsy. So it has been a very difficult journey that I struggle with a lot. And I did have some help, but his dad was not one of them. And so when I got into this most recent relationship, um, he came in, my son was, I think, 12 or so. And so he explained to me he had previously been married, and he told me straight up, he was like, those are not my biological kids, but those are still my kids. They're grown now, but I'm still in their life. And I was like, cool, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not tripping about that. And so he took on the responsibility of my son. And then when we had our son together, he continued that. And then when I left him, he still, when he come to get his son, he would still get Chase. Or he would at least ask Chase if, he wanted to go with him or not. And of course, Chase would want to go because that's the only dad he knew for the last almost 4 years. And then that man died. So now both my children are now without a father.
Mm.
So Chase now wants his dad. So he's like calling his dad, his bio dad, like, hey, can you come get me? Whatever, whoop, whoop. Because he doesn't understand with the autism and developmental delay and things of that nature, what is really going on, even though he's 16 years old. And so his dad really doesn't want anything to do with him. So like even if he does come get, well, he never comes get him. But if I do take him down there to see him, it's like he drops him off with his wife or either his girlfriend because he has both. And
Mm.
then it's like, and I told him, I said, I don't like the fact that you made my child conducive in your mess, because he don't understand this. And so now he's like, I want to go with my dad. And I'm like, baby, I can't make him come get you. Like, I don't know what to say to him because like he went from having this awesome dad in his life to literally back to no dad. And it makes me feel so bad because I'm like, well, I didn't really do anything wrong. But at the same time, it's like you have to be conscientious of that when you have children, who you talk to, how you date, and how you get involved. As far as the situation was concerned, as far as McDonald's is concerned, me being a woman, me being who I am, I wouldn't even thought twice. If I knew for a fact there were other children around, then I would have made sure all those children was going to eat if I was bringing food around. But at the same time, I'm not mad at a man who chooses to take care of his biological child just a tad bit different than other children because I feel like that to a certain degree is a primitive response, but it's to the extent you take it, then it starts playing to an ethical or morality issue. I think as long as it's not obvious, Life Jennings talked about it. He's like, are you wrong for loving your own flesh and blood just a little bit more, And I don't think you're wrong. I think it's how it shows makes a difference. Like if you buy from one child, not the other, that's a problem. But I feel like naturally you might feel a little bit more attachment to one than the other.
There's this saying that people often say, which at first is like, well, me and my kids, we're a package deal. And then the older I got, this one dude says, I see the deal. I mean, I see the package, but where's the deal? I
Right.
always thought that was just the best line ever. He's like, we're a package deal. And I think that me growing up in a household like that may have contributed to that. Because both my parents, we all, well, not all the kids, actually, my step siblings, I have two step siblings. Yeah, well, really. Well, I don't know. Well, it was my oldest, who I grew up with. She had a different dad, but she was with my mom's child. And then my dad had two children before her, two other girls, and then I grew up with my little sister. So I didn't know no difference, with them. But
I was
I remember him, my other sister, Vaughn. I mean, I call her Vaughn. She would often say, "How was it like growing up with dad?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I don't know how it is without growing up with dad." But Vaughn is
yeah,
she's a little different because he didn't find out she was his until I think I had to be 12 years old when I met her because the mom originally said somebody else was the father, so that was weird. I was like, wow. And my mom treats them just like they're her kids, and she's a nice person. But men often carry that a little different. Like the girl I talk to now, she has a kid, and I don't think I'm treating him differently from my kid. I actually think I want more for him because he's a boy. I don't have a boy. I just have a daughter. I want more for him, but there's a level of I know I can't be the parent I am to him that I can be to my own daughter
a
because I
boundary, yeah.
yeah, and that's not I don't know if that's right or whatever, but that's just how it always would be because he's not yours. I mean, and
Well,
if
that's
you
why
have
I
that
said,
boundary, then the other part has to be natural, right?
Right.
yeah, well, that's why I said that it kind of depends. Because see, I grew up in a two-parent household, and I was super naive. And when I say super naive, I thought everybody had their mom and daddy. I thought everybody, parents were married and stuff like that. I didn't know anything about divorce and outside kids and that. So my dad married twice. So my older brothers and sisters, they had their mom, and then my dad married again, and then with my mom, and they had three children together, with one being an outside child. And I didn't even know that she wasn't my dad's child until I got older. Like that's just how, I guess, collective my family was. I saw my older brothers and sisters all the holidays or whatever it might be. They came down from New York. They spent time with us. You know, it was just the age difference. My sisters and brothers, my older sisters and brothers, they're old enough to be my grandparents, or at least my parents. All my nieces and nephews are older than me, et cetera, et cetera. So it was very different. And my sister, she suffers from that dynamic more so than we do because her dad is still living. My dad died when I was 14 years old. And I did try to like mend the relationship between her and her father because for whatever reason, her stepmom talked to me, but she didn't talk to her. And so I tried to mend it as much as I could, but I couldn't because it was something they need to do together or whatever. And when her grandmother died, her father's mother died, and she went to the funeral. I told her, I said, "You have every right to go to the funeral." I just feel uncomfortable. I said, "No, that's your grandmother. You can go to the funeral." So she goes to the funeral, and come to find out, there were four outside kids from his marriage, and she was one of them. So it was like very different because the children who actually grew up with this man, from what we're finding out, were not biologically his. So it was a whole bunch of mess to where the kids that was in the house were well taken care of, and the kids that were outside the house, he wanted nothing to do with it, and the ones that was outside the house were actually his children.
Wow.
So it was crazy and it was so weird. So she's still dealing with it and she's still processing that, even down to the men she date. You know, I try to explain to women. That's why I was so late, because I have my group session, and today we was talking about femininity, and we were talking about that, how when a woman dates, she typically dates the perspective of her father or whatever male figure was in her life growing up. And a lot of women, they disassociate the two, when it's very powerful. The dynamic that you date is a result of how your father raised you or how he treated your mother. And for a lot of black communities, black families, unfortunately, they didn't see that loving, caring relationship on a continuous basis. And that's why we're so lost collectively when it comes down to dating, because we don't even know how to treat each other.
Right. Well, so for me, my mother, I'm the only child for for 10 years, and then my mother had my twin sisters, and then when they were 12, my mother had another baby. So I've had, like, my stepfather, my twin sister's father. He's always treated me like, equally, and I think it's more so because I came before his actually own biological kids. So like when he met my mother, I was like 8, 9 years old. So he had already had like the experience of like becoming a father or being a father. But me, when me and I've been separated from my ex-husband 15 years. From like literally, I got pregnant with my last daughter, and it was like, nah, this ain't it. But we started early. We started at 13, 14 years old. With them, it's like I didn't date, like, so okay, you figure the last 15 years I did have like a little relationship, but that went back to like a childhood friend kind of thing. But I knew if my kids couldn't be like number one, I had to put my all in them. So I couldn't focus on a relationship, because that is a whole different mechanism of mental space and time. And I just basically focused on my kids. But then also when it came to dating, it was like, I don't want to date anyone with kids, because I expect that man to put any kids that he has before me and mine. And I would hate to see that he like is not, because I've come across guys that didn't even mention they had a child until like it just so happened to pop up, and it's like, oh yeah, nah. Oh, really? You're spending time with me, but you're not doing anything for your child. So I just basically, like, I just been dating myself for real, the last few years, because I don't want to feel selfish that I'm taking away from my kids, because I just, like I said, I just focus on them. So I don't know, or they don't know what it is to, like, have somebody pick up one and not the other. However, I do have friends that I grew up with, and I just never forget, like at maybe 8, 9 years old, one of my neighbors, where we lived in the projects, one of my neighbors in the building, she would always be at my house because her siblings, which was two, a sister and a brother, they would always be with their father on the weekends. But he didn't want to have nothing to do with her. And just always, growing up and now getting older, and then she starts telling these stories, like, how she felt, and just felt like, they had everything. They didn't even, he would never even offer to take her. So, you just feel like staying like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. You grow up feeling like I did nothing to this man. And, why isn't my father around? And why isn't my sibling's father even trying to be around with me? And then when they break up, or if they break up, it's like, now we're all without fathers. Like, what do we do? So,
It's a tough situation, and I think that's the importance of. We can't really backtrack at this point, but that's the importance of really getting to know someone and being with someone as a friend before we get involved sexually and
mhm.
have children with them. I think that's a crucial part.
You
Like
know
me, I
what?
date.
I got a question. I got a question before you go there. Before you go there.
Okay.
Why don't when you ask that question as a child, like from what I'm seeing in my life now, is of course it is what it is. Men take the blame. But why don't what the kids ever ask, like, could my mom have been like a person that's unruly and like nobody wanted to be around her? Or no, but she's the one that raised you. Of course you wouldn't ask that. Like, of course. But you know,
You ask- I think you ask it when you become an adult. Like I think once
Yeah,
you
get
when you
older.
okay.
start dating, when you start dating, and like I say, when you start exploring men and things of that nature, I think your
Exploring.
reflection of how your mom and your dad interacted and what they showed you and what you saw, it is a direct reflection of how you date. Like for me, I'm old fashioned. My dad was 60 when I was born. My mom was almost 40 when I was born. I grew up in a very different era of living than someone who's my age. I'm 32 years old, but I am literally old school. Like I believe wholeheartedly in gender roles. I believe in a woman's place, a man's place. Like I'm very big on that. And so I typically date older guys. Now I also date opposite of the lady who was just speaking. I don't know your name. What's your
Brooklyn.
name?
Ty,
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn Ty.
Okay, so I date the opposite of you because if a man's dating me, I want him to already have children. And the reason why I want him to already have children is because I don't plan on having any more children. I'm getting closer to that age where it's more of a high risk. I've always had high risk pregnancy. So for medical reasons, I don't want to put myself or my relationship through that trauma because there's a good chance that that child won't make it or I could be lost trying to give birth to that child.
Right.
So with that being said, when I date, I like a man to already have a child. So then it's going to be more of like a blended family type scenario than it would be just you take care of your child and then you have my children here. I think that
Like a
the person who
Neapolitan.
I'm going to date are going to be mature enough to understand that these are our kids together, even though we don't have any biological kids together. And I would treat your children the same way that I treat my own kids and vice versa. And that's just me. And
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't ran into anything like that where they didn't treat their kids and my kids the same. So I can't talk about that because it's pretty much have been any man who dated me had accepted my son and was there for my son the same way he was there for his other children or whatever case I have been. But I do think it's really important to step
Not
back
have been or have.
sometimes.
Mm.
What?
Nothing. It's something you said. It
Okay.
bothered me.
What
Not
did I
have
say
been.
about it?
What not have been when have been because you did it. Nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm just being ignorant.
Yeah, you're
I can't
being
help it.
very. Let her finish her
But
point.
so at the end
It's
of the day,
good.
I think, like I say, I think that now that I'm older, I do look at the way I date with the inclusion of my children to make sure that I'm not putting them in a situation to where they will be neglected from any aspect. And I think that's important because a lot of times, like you said, when you're dating, it takes on a mental space, it takes on a physical space, it takes on an emotional space. You have to make sure that you're ready to assume that role when you do have children. Now that my son is 16, I'm a little bit more open to dating, than I was when he was younger. But now I have a 2 year old as well. So I kind of backed off the market, especially, like I say, this death was recent. So I was still like trying to process that relationship and things of that nature when his man died. So now it's like I have a 2 year old son. I have a 16-year-old son, and it's like, okay, anybody who dates me, they gotta be old enough, mature enough to deal with a teenager, but also young enough to manipulate a 2 year old. So it's just kind of like a weird atmosphere at this point.
Yeah,
No, the
me.
men. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, for me now, like, now that my kids is older, my youngest is 15. She about to be out the way. So now, like, I can kind of meet men, and if they have kids, I'm hoping for them to be older. Like, I just turned 45, by the way. So, like, I don't really expect a man that I'm dating to have like too young of a child. Like, that would be that, like, yeah, like, no. But now it just like, because to me now, if I can see someone that has kids and I can actually how are you interacting, because I would prefer them to be a little bit older now, and it's like, basically out of child support age, I should say, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't need
Right.
like, I don't need somebody, like, I'm not taking care of kids right now. Like, I don't want another man having to be still taking care of a child, under 18, basically.
That
But
makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I think it's the same way with men. I think when men pursue women, they think about the child's age as well. When
right.
you go into a relationship, and this is just my opinion as a
Hold on. Don't be
man,
speaking for
and
men. There's plenty of men on this podcast.
nothing
God.
wrong.
We're not
But y'all
excluding the
can
men.
talk about it, right?
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Let
but
her
But
let her
y'all
talk
can
from
also,
break
her
it apart,
experience.
right? And tell me if I'm
No, let her
wrong,
talk from her.
right?
Let her tell from her experience.
yeah, let the woman tell the man perspective. I'm with you. Go ahead.
Then y'all can break it down because I think it's a balance. There's some parts that I can see, even though I'm not a man. But I think with a man, he has to look at it whether the child is male or female. He looks at it very differently because of the fact that if he comes in and this child is a teenager, et cetera, that's a lot more to deal with versus a child being 2 and 3 or under 5, so to speak, because they
I
already
don't
have
think.
developed
I don't think.
personality. Go
Mm-mm.
ahead.
I don't think men think like that. It's
Yeah,
if you have
yeah, men
children.
don't
It
care
yeah.
about
It's
that
if you have children. Period. Yeah. If you have children.
because
Period.
it's
The age
additional work,
factor only.
and that's the problem.
Correct. The age factor only comes into play when we're talking about teenage boys and teenage girls. But like the initial thing is if you have children.
Yeah,
Period. Because they all come with the same
I
shit. I
mean, yeah,
mean, it is what it
it's
is.
still
That person
it's
gonna
still
grow
an
up one
additional
day.
burden, and I think that's
And we care
actually
more if the fathers in the life too.
also that's too
Like
because
if the
I don't want to,
yeah.
like, if you have a male son, now it's two more niggas in my life.
Right.
Correct.
I was gonna ask the men, actually, because there was a situation, it just blew out of my head, but same scenario kind of thing. Like, men have to deal with, is the father, like, when you're dealing with someone who has kids, now is that father gonna be around? Now, what is your role gonna be in that
Me.
child's life? Are you going to be
Right.
like stepping up,
I'm
or are you going to just take a step back and say, hey, because I respect the man that's going to come out. And this is me, if I, like, from a male's perspective, if I will, like, if I was a dude, or, this is how I view when I'm looking at men to date. I always jump into, like, the kind of men that I would want and view or whatever. So I would want a man that is going to respect, like, listen, I'm gonna not even to introduce my himself to, like, the girl that he's dating, but to let them know, like, listen, I'm here and I don't want to try to be daddy, but I would like to, be able to spend time with him openly, and, not make you feel some kind of way because I'm taking time from you and whatever, because there are a lot of situations that, when it comes to step parents, that can work, because like I said, my stepfather was good to me, so I'm blessed in that way. But that was another thing when I'm, like, even with my ex-husband's current wife, like, she's never, to me, I would respect her more if it was like, making sure he was doing what he was supposed to be doing all these years and didn't. Like, how can you
Right.
lay with a man and have kids with a man knowing this man is not taking care of the kids he already has, and you're
Yeah.
okay with that?
It
Well,
depends on the
it's not
girl.
necessarily
If the
about
girl,
being okay with it. It's about people wanting to go and do things that are pleasurable, which leads me into like the next topic. Like you see,
and people fail people for different reasons.
exactly. But there's a number of women who have, and we've all seen this in our lives, who've been like, like I'm the one who made you. You got to follow things by my rules. Yet in 20 years, when somebody's like, "Hey, mom, you going to nursing care?" It's like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." Da, 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 da. And it's like, no, remember the person who pays the bills gets to make the rules. So now your ass is gonna be in this place where maybe they're gonna beat you, maybe it's gonna be whatever, but you created this whole dynamic where it's just whoever pays the bills makes the rules. And now that your kids are paying the bills, they're the ones that make the rules. And I think people aren't ready for that. What do you think about this, Reed? Do you think we're going to see a lot of children getting potential revenge on their parents, or not just Reed, the whole panel? But what do y'all think about that kind of scenario?
I already told my kids put me in a home because y'all ain't gonna want to deal with me.
Them shit's expensive.
Listen, my kids will have me in a wheelchair in a tub drowning.
Growing up, I didn't like my mom. I spent a lot of my time with my dad. I didn't know my mom, and it wasn't until I had children that me and her even began to form any type of bond. And I told her, because I know the dynamic of nursing homes and things of that nature, that I would not put her in a home. If she got to the point where she could not take care of herself, I would just have an in-home nurse, and she would have a mother-in-law suite or things of that nature. I've already done that to the point where I have a mother-in-law suite in my house where my mom lives. She has basically a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment attached to my house, and she has a clean bill of health. However, if that was to decline, I've already told her that, I'm not going to wipe your ass because I can't do that. That's just not my thing. But I will pay somebody to do it for you. So that's kind of where I am, my parents. But I think a lot of children, and I've seen it firsthand. My aunt, and I'm gonna speed this up because I feel like I'm talking really slow. My aunt is 82 years old, and she lost her home shortly after my uncle died back in 2015. And she has four children, but one of her daughters, or oldest daughter, got sick, and she started taking care of her. Like, she kept having these strokes and seizures, and now she's in a home herself. And so her other son is in Hawaii, and then she had one that was about 30 minutes away from her. So I stepped up, went down there, looked over the paperwork, looked over the taxes, all this stuff. Then I said, Auntie, I said, you have lost your home. I said, you was in a reverse mortgage. Um, this right here happened. This is what happened, but you have to leave now. So I went down there, packed the house up, and I moved her to Columbus, where I was currently staying. I found her a place, got her to the doctor, got her healthy, got her doing really good. And then she started declining. And so I called her sons. I said, hey, look, I'm gonna have to put your mom in a nursing home because I can't take care of her and a new baby and my child and my, dude at the same time, all this like that. And so the son was like, oh, whatever, do what you gotta do. And then the second son comes in and go, well, you're not taking my mom to the nursing home. You just want her money. So he just kind of comes and steals her from me and takes her to his house. And he's like, oh, you stealing her money? I'm like, I'm not stealing her money. I don't want her money, whatever. But then once he gets her and he sees what I was dealing with, he throws her in the home. And he literally just put her there and left her to rot. So she's deteriorating, and he couldn't care less. And I feel so bad because I was like, if I had just fought a little bit harder to keep her with me, but I couldn't because I had no legality to it.
Yeah,
Like, we was on the way to do the attorney and stuff like
Recourse.
that. Yeah, and we was going to get the power of attorney, but it was just so much going on. Like I said, I had a high risk pregnancy. I had just had a baby. And then it was a lot. And so I told her to just wait a little bit, and then, we waited too long. And I feel bad because I could never treat someone like that. No, it's like no matter what they did to me, because my life was not crystal or a crystal stair. But at the same time, I understood that our parents did the best they could with what they was given and what they knew. Like, I had to understand that because, again, like I told you, I hated my mom. But once I realized that she gave me the absolute best that she had to offer, even though it wasn't enough, I couldn't be mad because she gave her all. And I think that as an adult, once you start to realize that, yes, life may not have been peachy, but if your parent did everything they could, then I don't feel like you should hate them anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Because then it comes back on you. So if
But
you treat your parents like crap when they get down, then what do you think your children are going to do when you get down?
Facts.
Listen, I'll be at
I mean,
peace with it.
That'd be all right.
um,
I'll be alright. Me and my mother, like, I and not to drag my me, like, we just not on good terms right now. But um, yeah, I tell her all the time. Thank God you have other daughters.
I hear it in your voice. Like, if you ain't got nothing nice to
Yeah,
say.
no, because I'm trying to be nice. Because I gotta remember. But no,
You
I
ain't
just
got
be
nothing
like,
nice to say.
thank God you got three other girls who love you.
What were
And
you
not to
saying,
say I could do
Sham?
it.
I don't. I think that's a somewhat difficult situation for me
Hmm.
personally. I didn't grow up on really great terms with either of my parents, and I want to keep this short. I was cool with my mom once I became an adult. Growing up, hated that shit. Uh, the opposite was true with my dad. But in this day and age, or I should say, at my current age, I know I would do my best to make sure my mom was okay. Me and my dad have repaired our relationship for the most part, but his wife is a complete bitch, and I mean the type of bitch that you wouldn't piss on if she was, spontaneously
On
combusted.
fire.
Um, well, no, I was saying spontaneously combustion. She's gone at that point. I still wouldn't put it out. Uh,
Fuck that bitch.
but that kind of becomes an issue when once you have other factors. I feel like it's not that simple of a question because it's always about what your relationship was with that person. But then as Blue said, she was taking care of her aunt, but then this other factor, this other relation came in, and then that changed the dynamic of what she could do. Uh, if my dad gets to that point, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with his wife. Uh,
Yeah, are y'all talking about power of attorney and all that kind of stuff? Like, y'all haven't had those conversations
oh, let me
because
tell
he's
you,
going. She sound like she gonna
he's
kill
gonna
him.
get fucked. Oh
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
man, she gonna
bro.
murder
Let
that
me tell
man.
you something.
No, I
Uh,
took care of my father, like, and watched him take his last breath. Like, that
that's
was my
rough.
dude. That
It
was
is
my
rough.
guy. Like, my mother was the tough love mother. We were, like I said, I was the only child. She only had girls. Like, we are all amazing daughters. Like, we're not, they got good jobs and all of that good stuff. And she did very well. I love my mother. Don't get me wrong. But me and my father, that was my ace boon goon. Like, that was my guy. Like, I would, but I think I wouldn't take care of my mother because I took care of him. He had cancer, and why? Like, I don't think I'll ever want to watch a parent go through
Yeah,
that.
it's a hard thing.
Like, it was horrible. It was one of the worst things in the world, and then it happened so fast, and then it was like, we had 5 months. We found out he had cancer, and then 5 months he was gone. So,
Mhm.
like, it was crazy, but
I watched my dad die. And I was 14. And I remember telling my mom, I say, Mom, something not right with daddy. She's like, what you mean? Because I washed the clothes. I was very domesticated. My mom wasn't at the house to do it. So I had to do everything. I cooked, clean, and everything with my dad. And so I was washing his laundry. And I say, Mom, there's blood in his pants. Like, something's not right. And being, like I say, from a different era, they listen to the doctor or they don't listen to the doctor, whatever. Because and I watched my dad literally bleed slowly to death for 3 months.
Mm.
And every time I told somebody, every time I said something to somebody, they just missed it because I was a child. And I remember being at school one day and they came and got me and they say, it's your dad. We need to go to the hospital. And so I go to the ICU. I look at my dad. He looks at me and I was like, this it? He's like, yeah, this it. And I told him goodbye and I went back to school. And I finished the day off at school. And I was staying with somebody else at the time. And they was like, your dad died today and you're okay. And I was like, well, what you want me to do? I watched him suffer. I cried out, I screamed out as much as I could for somebody to pay attention, and nobody listened to me. So now that he's gone, I'm supposed to, boo hoo. I said my goodbye. I had my peace, but I don't wish it on anybody. I don't wish it on anybody. And again, like I say, I didn't know my mom. And My dad was my ace bookund. Like he was just like I got up in the 5 o'clock in the morning and rode into town with my dad. And when I say rode into town, we live on a farm, so we had to drive into town to go to school and things of that nature. And so I spent my entire life with my dad. He showed me how to drive on a John Deere tractor. He taught me how to be the boy of the family because his boys were grown and gone. So we had to chop wood because we grew up in a farmhouse with a potbelly stove, and cut the grass, plant the seeds, all that stuff. That was me and my sister. My dad had gotten too old to do it, so we spent our entire lives with our dad. And then when he was gone, it took me 10 years to process my dad's death. 10 years. I used to like dream that he was still here. I would go to sleep and I would still be at the baseball game with my dad and things of that nature. It was rough. And I don't wish that on anybody. And when you have that type of love for your parents or even your children, to watch them suffer and to watch them endure something that you can't help and take away from them, it takes its toll on you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why I said I'm blessed. I have good kids
Yeah.
because I don't know what it would take to have like a drug addict or like I don't know if y'all watched it. What was that? Euphoria.
Oh well, I mean,
I can't watch that
Euphoria
shit.
is one of those shows where it's like you're getting to see a side of portrayal where it's very real, but at the same time, there we all know somebody like that.
Dramatized.
Yeah. Well, no, we all know somebody whose life is completely messed up like that. So when you have to deal with the kid that's a drug addict, like the problems just multiply, especially the longer the behavior goes on. And I mean, you can't just fix it either, because I mean, I've seen enough kids die in those military camps to know that that ain't necessarily the route either.
Yeah, that's how my aunt lost her house because they mortgaged the house to get their son out of jail for a drug.
And he went right back.
So
Wow.
it was so crazy because she had this man was living her son, and she was trying her best as a mother to try to see him beyond his faults and try to still provide for him and take care of him. I had to go to Verizon. I'll never forget it. It had to get her account deleted and stuff like that. He had ran up a $4,000 bill up under her,
Yeah.
just buying accessories and phones and all kind of stuff on her account. So
God
I had
damn.
to, get her proof.
Right.
It was bad. Then he had this woman living with him, and they were doing drugs together. And one morning, and he woke up, the woman didn't. And so my aunt had to deal with this woman dead in her house. It was a lot, man. And it's like it's stuff like you think you see on TV, but it be real life,
Yeah.
it be real life.
That's what's crazy to me. I'm like these kids today, like they don't understand. We done been through like our, I don't know how old everybody is, but
Under
We
Like
40.
between 30, we
yeah,
between 30
40.
somethings and
We
40.
done been through. We done
17 and 6.
survived. We done survived some shit like for real.
Yeah,
For real.
yeah. I mean,
My 15-year-old is like I don't come in the room for like about maybe 45 minutes because I'm gonna be with my therapist. I'm like, what? Oh,
You
okay.
know,
They offer therapy.
when we talk to kids, like I always feel like because we didn't rely on those things. I think they're over relying on those things to explain their issues. Because I met kids, I'm just like, bro, just deal with your
Well,
shit,
yeah,
bro. That's
but
what's wrong
you
with you.
got to
You ain't dealing
remember
with your
these
shit.
kids are weaker than we were because they've grown up in a
yes,
time.
absolutely.
Exactly, they've grown up in a time
Yeah, but so are we.
of relative security, and so it tends to mean that some of the coping mechanisms. And I know, Shan, where you're about to take it, but some of the coping mechanisms that we had to take because you knew, like, just going back to Reed, to the example you used in a completely different, I think in the other podcast where you're talking about someone having a baby and then coming back no baby. Like that woman may have lost her baby, or let's say the baby was aborted. But in either case, I guarantee
Yeah.
you, the parents didn't get her therapy or anything else. So she just had to fucking
Uh-uh.
deal with it.
Deal with
Right.
it. And nobody ever talked about it in school because I remember I was like, Amanda was
Yeah,
pregnant.
she
Like you could
was.
see the
Yeah.
stomach.
I was 15 in New York, pregnant, like getting hell over the summer, trying to figure out how I'm gonna go back to school in September, pregnant, and like how the school is gonna work around me. Then come to
Just
find
fucking
out,
do it.
September come. September coming, there's 7 of us pregnant. They ended up making a whole damn health class,
Y'all
a
over here
whole
like, look,
health class
let's
for us
tell y'all
because we
about these
couldn't have
Yeah.
condoms,
children.
goddamn
I have a young lady at my school right now. I work at this GNEX program, which is a specialized school for behavior and or developmental delayed
it.
children. And so there's a young lady, she keeps getting these fights about her quote unquote 3-month old brother that passed away. And so I was talking to one of the teachers. I said, I don't think that was her brother. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, what do you mean? I said, I don't think that was her brother. I said, she's too attached to this baby for it to be her brother, for her to be fighting every time somebody says something about it, for her to wear the t-shirt literally every week. I don't think that was her brother. I said, that was her son.
Mm.
Mm.
And this baby is not getting help. She's not getting any type of therapy, any type of anything because her mama said, that's my child. Tell everybody it was my child. But it wasn't her. I think that was that girl's baby because she's too attached.
Yeah, because
She
you're a
has been
teenager, you don't give a shit about no 3 month old. I mean, you'll give a shit, but you won't give a shit. You know,
Correct.
not that much. Nice.
exactly. She's too attached. And I was like, this was her baby. And I told him, I said, I'm gonna tell y'all something. And I know school psychologists and schools counselors, they have their hands full, so they don't really get to do what they need to do because there's a lot of red tape to it. But I feel so bad for her because I know I can feel it. I can see how she reacted. I've lost a child. I know that pain. That was her baby, and she can't even process it because her family told her that was your little brother. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Got to go on
And she's
about
not by
hiding it.
herself. Yeah.
I mean, we get over it because life goes
Well,
on. Like
no, no,
I
I don't
hate
know
to
if we
say
get.
Everybody
I
that.
don't know
can't
if we get
everybody
over it.
can't get over it.
Yeah, but
But this is also
Everybody
why
can
you have kids killing themselves because they've been bullied.
and this is
Hello.
why they have reborn babies because a lot of women can't get over the death of a baby.
yeah,
Especially if you're so young and you didn't really get the understanding. I know adult women, again, I have a women support group. I know an adult woman right now, she's in her 50s and she just recently got to the point where she was able to talk to me about it. And she was just like, Tia, like I've never been able to just open my mouth and talk to anybody like I can talk to you. Like she went through grief counseling for years
What
and she's just now being able to deal with losing that baby.
what you think was gonna happen now with when girls not being able to get abortions after they get pregnant
Say
by the
something.
person who raped them?
It's finna be so
It's
bad.
Yeah,
It's
gonna
gonna
but
be
be
so
generally
many
speaking, we're acting
feelings
like
and
that's why most people got
well, no, no,
abortions,
no,
and
no,
that's
no.
just
What
not
she's
true.
saying is,
There
go go
are.
beyond the reason.
Okay.
Let's be realistic. We're talking about the younger kids. If you're over 30 and you can't get abortion now, it's whatever the fuck it is. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. Shouldn't have been fucking, or maybe you should have been fucking using rubbers. Maybe y'all should have used spermicide,
right.
whatever. But you're talking about strictly the kids. Because remember, this bill doesn't say, hey, you're 25, you should have been responsible. No, the bill goes for everybody.
think of all the R. Kellys who are still out there in the world. Think of back in the day, all of my friends. Okay, my daughter is 28. I'm 45. I had her at 16. I got pregnant at 15. Had her at 16. All of my friends that I went to school with, we was like in the 90s. We like hustling. We doing shit. Hip hop was on top, right? All of my all of my friends kids fathers are either just coming home because they did like 25 to almost 30-year bids, um and so like if you think about all of these men who had babies, they were like R. Kelly age. They was up at the high schools chilling, we 15, 16, and they are also still getting raped by their father and their father's friends and their uncles. And so these are people who cannot have abortions in situations like that. And I think that is horrible.
I mean,
Beyond the fact that, these are women's bodies,
well, true. I
and
mean,
as
we,
long as
we,
it's
we get
being
that
done
part.
safely.
Yeah, yeah. What about the
I think
child
the
though?
I think the
Go
bigger
ahead.
thing is because what you're talking about is these are a lot of metropolitan problems. Like you be having those dads touching kids, all those. Like I'm not saying don't happen in small communities because small communities are the number one places of prostitution. But I'm saying by and large, for most people in Middle America, that is not something that is the overarching. number of reasons people need abortions, because we had a lot of that happen in our school growing up, and this was in the 2000s. So we a decade later than you, not the same area, but we had a lot of people who got it just because they was fucking. The main point that I'm trying to make here is that I think the support systems are different because we were able to handle things a little bit better because we grew up knowing, like, hey, somebody had that conversation with you, like, hey man, these girls are gonna try to trap you, or hey, little lady, these guys only want one thing, and you know exactly what that thing is, so you need to be, doing XYZ, the third thing. Whereas kids these days, they want to talk about sex and feel all these kind of ways about all these genders and all this other stuff. But then when you see them, as Blue was saying, in your support group, they are very different people because what they think they can handle, they cannot. And once, it gets to that point, it's already too late.
I just read this research result, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know I'm big on
No.
research. Okay.
Yes, we do.
Name
So it's
one.
Go
just
ahead.
Name one research.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
okay, so this research was about the correlation or causation claim that children who watched more sex scenes on TV were more likely to get pregnant. Now, they did what they call a multi-aggressive research where they ruled out third-party situations to what could have caused it. They even did it, broke it down to age. And even across age and other third-party causes, they still resulted that a child or a teenager seeing, hearing, and talking about sex increased their chances of actually having sex and getting pregnant.
Now,
So to
mhm.
walk back of how to prevent teen pregnancy along with pregnancy in early 20s would be more education on what it is, I think, and the true results of it. Like I'll be like, oh, don't have sex because you don't want to get pregnant. But it's more to it than just not getting pregnant. You're not emotionally ready for sex. You're not emotionally ready for the changes, the physical changes, things of that nature. So I think that we're more honest and realistic about that, then maybe we can prevent some of the teen pregnancies that are about to happen with just education. Now, as far as the rape is concerned, that goes back to, again, talking to these young ladies and letting them know that these men that are going to approach them are going to approach them because they want to mold them. They want to be able
Groom.
to manipulate them. And with them being, what
Groom.
Did
happened?
my
Groom
internet shut
them.
off?
Groom them.
Yeah, someone's
Groom.
grown.
Yes, groom. That's the word.
Oh shit.
Groom. So I think that it's just about, going back to what we used to talk about. Like, hey, look, that man don't want you for real,
Hello.
They don't believe you.
But it's scary though. They're not gonna believe me because they've been raised by hood rats, honey. So they have no idea. Like again, this femininity, they have no idea how to be a lady. So it's hard, but it's scary at the same time because these children having children, trying to raise children as a friend. Oh
All right,
man,
man.
I just feel.
Can we lighten this up because this is getting really depressing and serious.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
please.
I was gonna end on a good note.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Because I know we're coming towards the tail end here, for this podcast. But remember that kid, and this is something that Shan brought. Remember that kid who ran that fake medical practice, and
Yeah,
he
that little
was
black
acting
guy.
as a
Yeah,
doctor. Yeah, the black guy.
yeah.
Do you know his success rate was better than a lot of medical practices, and nobody ever talks about that
Uh
shit?
huh.
Like this nigga who literally Googled, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be a doctor, had better medical success rate
Well,
than actual doctors.
That's sad.
Well, doctors practice medicine. That's what people don't understand. They practice medicine. They're not experts. They don't know it all. They don't have all the answers. They basically go off a checklist. You say you got this, this, and that. Well, I think you have this. So take this. And if it doesn't work, come back and we'll try again. That's literally how they practice medicine.
Yeah, you're right. But I think the thing, and why I consider this to be a overall happy story, is that literally you could just try something, lie your way through it, and you might end up being better than people who've studied it for years.
go figure.
Yeah, man, go figure. So, next time y'all want to Google something, thinking that your head hurt for a specific reason, you might be right, boo. So go ahead and check that out and do your research, figure things out. Shan, did I hit all the boxes that you were checking earlier?
Oh, bro, let me tell you, my internet went out. So I don't know what the fuck the boxes were in the first
No,
place.
no, no. Remember your
I
boxes
was
earlier?
here.
Your boxes, you was like telling people to try. but you wanted them to try collectively as a group. I mean, this is some Patreon content, but I was just going to throw it in at the end.
Oh yeah. I agree with what you said because I said it. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like that. But
What?
Blue and Brooklyn and Ty, we really do appreciate both of y'all coming for this podcast. And I just want to end it on a good note. Do you have anything else, either of our two wonderful ladies that came through today that you wanted people to know? Anything you wanted to say before we get out?
No, just check me out. Brooklyn Side NYC on all platforms. BKLYNTYE NYC. And I got merch on my website. And, support everybody. Everybody Black doing big things. And spread love is the Brooklyn Highway.
Awesome. Blue, what you got? What you do?
Yeah, so follow my support group, Women Taking Back Womanhood on Facebook. My soaps are on sale right now, $2 on the website, blackorchard.com, blackorchardsoaps.com. And yeah, just continue to walk in your truth, live in your truth, and take a step back to find out what the truth is
Okay,
first.
I'm about to ask you what's the truth, because like that's the problem with a lot of people. They're delusional, like the truth and then your truth are maybe two separate things.
Maybe.
But that's why I said
I know. You
you
change
have
it
to
up.
take that.
Change it up.
No. He's trying to be very inspirational these days. So he's trying to make sure that his language is accurate. But thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to another episode of Everyday Black Man Podcast, a podcast for authentic Black male thoughts. Now with some ladies. You can follow me on Twitter, EBYD Black Men, Instagram, Everyday Black Men, and Everyday Black Men Facebook page. Our Patreon is EBMP. We had a really personal episode that you can check out where we talk a lot about doing things and trying and raising your standards so that you can do better. And we also have our website, www.everydayblackmen.com. Peace.